start, Dorothy? Do I have to wait for her? Well, good morning, everyone, and apologies for the short delay. We're just making sure we knew if our members of the public were going to be able to be with us for the audit committee meeting that we'll begin with. So good morning. My name is Kathy Daigle-Gammon. I am the chair of Audit and Finance and Councillor for District 1, Waverley, Fall River, Musquodoboit Valley. With us, supporting us, is Dorothy Mapunga, down here in the front, who is our legislative assistant, Jerry Blackwood, who is the executive director of finance, and missing to my right, but here shortly, will be John Traves, who is our municipal solicitor. So we'll call the meeting to order and do our land acknowledgement that the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. We'll ask now for approval of the minutes of March 24th, 2025. Councillor Gillis, seconder, Councillor Cleary. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. We'll now ask for approval of the order of business and the approval of additions or deletions. Madam Clerk, do we have any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions have been received by the clerk's office.
Thank you. So a motion to approve. Councillor Gillis and Councillor Cleary. For the second, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you. So moving on, and this is the audit committee. So call for declaration of conflict of interests. Seeing none, we'll move on to the best part of the agenda, the year-end financial statements and the fourth quarter financial report. We have with us Dave Harley, who is the Director of Accounting and Financial Reporting, and Danielle Paris, who is the Manager of Accounting Operations. They will provide a presentation and then be available to answer questions from the committee. And upon completion of the presentation, then we will have the motion and then debate. Welcome, Dave and Danielle.
Good morning, and Dave Harley. I'm the Director of Financial Management Operations, and as the Chair mentioned, I am joined by Danielle Paris, our Manager of Accounting Operations. So we are here this morning to bring forward the audited consolidated financial statements of the municipality, as well as our statement of general rate surplus, our municipal trust statements, and our updated fourth quarter report. So diving right into things. Just going to quickly touch on the governance and responsibilities. So HRM management are responsible for the preparation of the financial statements and for bringing them forward for presentation to the audit committee. The committee's terms of reference states that the committee is responsible for reviewing in detail the financial statements of the municipality with our external auditors, evaluating our internal control systems and management letters with the external auditors, and review with management and the external auditor, and recommend to regional council the approval of the annual audited financial statements. KPMG, who are also here today, will be providing an opinion on our financial statements. And on March 24th of this year, they did come forward and present their audit planning report to this committee. So it is recommended that once we finish our presentation, you will go in camera with KPMG to discuss more about the year without the presence of management. And then following all these discussions, you will be asked to vote on the motion. So moving and looking at our financial position, our financial statements, they reflect a single point in time. We are in a fairly strong financial position, but there are significant risks on the horizon for us that we want to make sure everyone's aware We do have some fairly significant growth and infrastructure plans coming forward that are going to significantly require levels of funding that we do not currently have available. So there will be either requirements to increase taxes or find other forms of funding to handle those pressures. So on top of that, we have our asset renewal growth. Our asset renewal needs continue to grow and will need to be funded as well to maintain our current level of assets. So in terms of what makes up our consolidated financial statements, we do have multiple entities that we do bring into our financial statements and include their results within our package. So we do have a number of recreation facilities and commissions. We include the Halifax Regional Library, 50% of the Events East Group due to our shared management of that with the province, as well as Halifax Water, which not listed here as we consolidate them under the modified equity method, so they're treated slightly differently. So just looking at our consolidated statements, we are expecting to receive an unqualified audit report, and as always, they are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and the public sector accounting standards. I did want to call out, we have had in this year a requirement to restate some of our prior year amounts within our financial statements. So what has happened is, as part of their audit, Halifax Water identified and corrected an error to their statements related to the depreciation of certain of their capital assets. The way that they were treating them was in accordance with how they would bring it forward for rate applications, but that did not match how they would actually be treated under IFRS reporting standards, which they adopted a few years ago. As a result of this, they were forced to restate their financial statements, and as we do consolidate them, it did have an impact on our prior year numbers, and we have included a restatement to those within our numbers this year. So looking at our statement of financial position, this is essentially the balance sheet of the municipality. So you'll see the cash resources, our net financial asset position. So that's the difference between our liabilities and our financial assets. So if we have a net financial asset, we can, that provides us with flexibility to finance future operations. Non-financial assets of the municipality is our TCA, so our tangible capital assets, as well as any inventory or prepaids that we have. And then finally, it shows the accumulated surplus of the municipality. So overall, you can see we do have an accumulated surplus of $2.7 billion. What I'll do is I'll get into the detailed sections as we go through these slides. So looking first at our financial assets, we can see that our cash has actually decreased slightly from the previous year. The largest factor of that is is amounts that we spent on the acquisition of tangible capital assets. So as we've spent more on our capital plan, we've actually seen a decrease in our cash at the current or as of March 31st. In terms of our accounts receivable, it's largely due to the timing of the receivables of assets. It's a very slight change, so we won't get into any real detail there. Our land held for resale has increased. That's due to an increase of business park lots as we've gotten those ready for sale. Our investments are down due to the timing and the availability of cash to invest. So as we spent more of that cash on our capital assets, we've had less cash to put into investments. So that's kind of what's driven that number down. Our investment in Halifax Regional Water Commission has increased. That's due to a remeasurement gain on their defined benefit plans, as well as they had some greater revenues than they had increase in expenses for the current year. In terms of our liabilities, our accounts payable, that has increased largely due to the timing of accruals as part of our year end. So there's no significant change there in terms of what we're doing. Our deferred revenue, that's increased, and that's largely due to an installment of the Housing Accelerator Fund coming in. So that money, until we've actually earned that money or using that money, it's just going to sit as a deferred revenue on our books. So that's why that's increased. Our employee future benefits, it's an increase due to an increase in our liability for our sick bank obligation. And there's additional notes in our financial statements, 9 and 10, that would kind of break down what that increase is about. Information on our pension plan can also be found on note 9 of the financial statements. So there's more information available there for those that are interested. Our asset retirement obligations, that's a fairly new one with the implementation of the asset retirement obligation standard that came into effect last year. So the increase in the liability is a result of our accretion expenses for the year. These expenses are the result of an increase in the liability due to the passage of time. So as we get closer, that liability naturally increases as we get closer to having to pay that. And then finally, our long-term debt, that's a decrease. It's because we actually paid off more debt than we actually took in new debt in the current year. So we expect that number to actually continue to start trending upwards in future years as we finish more capital projects and take out more debt to pay for them. When we look at our TCA, you can see we've actually had an increase of about $200 million. Largest ones of that, creates roads and infrastructure, has increased almost $85 million. We did have an increase land improvements of $25 million, another $25 million in buildings, and $24 million in machinery and equipment. The biggest increase, though, was our assets under construction. So that's ongoing work that's continuing. That increased about $193 million. So that's assets that will come online in the future years once we actually finish that work. We did have depreciation of $164.8 million to offset some of that growth. So that's why that number is increasing only about $200 million. Moving on to the statement of operations, which is in effect our income statement. So it's the consolidation of the revenue and expenses of the municipality. We do have to show expenses by the types of services provided, and those are defined for us by the financial reporting and accounting manual of the province. So it may look a little bit different from what we speak to throughout the year as we look at our different business units. We don't classify it the same way on our financial statements. So in terms of revenue, our taxation increased. That was driven in part by an increase in residential taxes of about $35.3 million. So we had some assessment growth there in that year of 6.8%, and we did increase the rate 1.3% for that year. Our commercial taxes further increased about $20 million. That's the other piece of the tax increase. We had an increase in mandatory education area rate of almost $20 million. So that one is one that flows into us, and then we pay it directly to the province. Similarly, we did see offsetting that, we saw decreases in correction services and the Metro Housing Authority, as those were both discontinued rates, though. So we're no longer having to collect them or transfer those funds to the province. We did see an increase in our D-transfer tax of about $1.6 million. Again, that's all due to market activity, so no real control over that number. Taxation from other governments, we did have a slight increase due to grants in lieu and from the federal government and from PILT. We actually saw some healthy growth in our user fees and charges, largely due to an increase in transit fares and ridership. We saw an increase in building permits again, as that has continued to grow quite healthily over the last few years. Licenses and permits increased, the marketing levy was up, and recreation fees also increased, mostly due to usage. Parking meters and facility rentals, again, saw smaller increases, about $500,000 each on those two areas. In government grants, we did see a decrease in the diversion credit of $2.1 million, but even more than that, we saw a decrease from the Rapid Housing Initiative, where that's funds that we take in and then immediately pay out for that Rapid Housing Initiative. So with the end of that program, or that tranche of that program, we didn't have that revenue coming in this year. Investment income, that's decreased as we saw interest rates drop over the past year. We did see an increase in penalties, fines, and interest. We did have about $1 million increase in our summary offense ticket revenues coming in this year. We had some increased revenue on taxes, and we did have some higher false alarm charges. Our land sales was down primarily due to lower road transfers from the province. So, and we've had some higher business park sales. Our investment in the Halifax Regional Water Commission decreased. That was largely due to the increase in the operating expenses of the HRWC. Okay. And then moving on to the expenses. You can see general government services, we did see an increase within that grouping. It's about $11 million. That's largely due to compensation, but it is offset somewhat by the discontinuation of the Metro housing payments as well as the decrease in costs for the Rapid Housing Initiative. We did have the cost of the municipal election of about $1.2 million that increased that number. Protective services had an increase of about $12.4 million. This was due to an increase mostly in compensation and benefits as collective agreement increases kicked in, and we did have an increase in the officer complement over the prior year. Transportation services increased about $5.9 million, again, largely due to salaries and benefits. The collective agreement for ATU was signed in that year, so that did help to drive up those costs. Environmental services increased primarily due to an increase in recoveries for Halifax Water. Or from Halifax Water, sorry. Recreation and cultural services increased $9 million. Again, salary and benefits is a primary driver there. That was largely due to an increase in the number of casual laborers they had on for some of their recreation programming and some of the work in parks. We had increased expenses for homeless encampment sites that came in at about $2.9 million, and then we had some increase in depreciation expenses there of about $1 million. Planning and development fees increased expenses increased about $10.2 million. Again, compensation benefits is the largest portion of that at about $3.7 million. We did see an increase in marketing levy grants of $2 million. So those would have been offset by revenues. And then an increase in Housing Accelerator Funds grants of $1 million, again, offset in revenue by the grants coming in. Our education services, that was an increase driven almost exclusively by the mandatory education payments. We did see a slight increase in supplementary education, but that is almost exclusively the mandatory education. So with that look at the expenses and the revenues, we can see we finished the year with an annual surplus of $59 million. That leads us to an accumulated surplus of $2.7 billion. What that is, that's not actually cash in the bank. That is money that we've invested in our reserves or within our TCA, our tangible capital assets. And so it's not necessarily money that's available to spend, but it is money that we've reinvested back into the municipality. Now we'll move on to our statement of the general rate surplus. So in terms of the general rate surplus, we did finish the year with a slight surplus. It's pretty close to where we had projected for the year, so it was about $3.5 million surplus. Again, as we're required to under the financial reporting and accounting manual, we do transfer that amount into the reserves, and we're just letting it all flow through to our options reserve where we do identify we do have a need to increase the funding to that reserve. Again, as part of the motions for this report, Council has asked to approve that transfer as well. Moving quickly into our municipal trust statements. So the trusts are items that we hold, it's small funds that we hold in trust. So it's things like tax sale proceeds and cemetery maintenance funds. So we hold them separate from our own financial statements. They are not the funds of the municipality. We hold on to them in trust for these other groups. So in terms of the assets of the trusts, cash is about $10.7 million. It's about a $500,000 increase over the prior year. That's primarily due to increased tax sale revenues. Our accounts receivables increased as we have funds that in the tax sale surplus that were accrued in 2025. So that's what's driving the accounts receivable there, and there was no change in the investments for the year. In terms of the liabilities and the funds of equity, so the liabilities, there were no liabilities due to Halifax Regional Municipality in this year, so that's driven down to nothing. And then the funds equity is up to $10.7 million. Those balances are available in the schedule in the financial statements. In terms of the income and expenditures of the trusts, for income, we had about $1.4 million. That's a decrease compared to the prior year. It's basically due to the number of tax sales that we had. So that's the biggest, we had a decrease in the number of tax sales, so we had a decrease in the revenue provided by those tax sales. Our expenditures decreased because we had lower transfers of interest to HRM for the maintenance of the cemeteries and for the tax sale transfers to reserves. Moving on, so for the second year now, we are presenting our climate-related financial disclosures reporting. So this is voluntary reporting that HRM has taken on about its series of disclosures that are recommended from the Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures is what they're called. So we have started implementing this last year. You'll recall was the first year we actually presented these disclosures, and this is the second year. So we're continuing on our journey. Our implementation journey is planned for about 5 years. So right now we are in the second year. We're hoping to continue, or sorry, we just finished our second year. We're moving into our third year. So the benefits of applying this framework is, I mean, it's meant to strengthen our ability to manage climate risks effectively. It helps us to quantify climate-related information in financial terms and identify infrastructure investment needs. It's intended to help integrate climate risks into our budgeting and long-term planning, and it's meant to help enhance access to other sources of funding in the future once we have these disclosures in place and can clearly articulate what we're doing in terms of our financial disclosure. On top of that, this does actually support one of the actions that came forward as part of our Halifax plan to integrate climate into our financial decision making. So next steps, we are just finishing year 2, as I said. We're continuing to evolve this reporting. So we do monitor what other municipalities are doing. Several of them are a lot further along their implementation plans than we are. So we monitor what they are doing now, what they have done along their implementation plans. We can try to find what worked and what didn't work and improve our own reporting as we go forward. So we continue to monitor those developments as well, and we monitor developments in public sector standard settings. So as this field grows, there's more and more standards that are coming forward on this. CPA Canada is looking at its own standards, public sector standards as well for this. So we keep an eye on what those are to see if we're going to have to adjust at any point in time. But right now we are sticking to the guidelines that were provided in terms of how we move forward with TCFD. And we'll just quickly move into our fourth quarter report. So to finish the year, we had our councillors' funds, our district capital funds. They have a budget of $3.1 million. By the end of the year, $2.4 million of that had been spent or committed. So that leaves about $0.6 million available that's being carried forward to next year. From our district activity funds, there is a $72,000 budget total. $65,900 was spent on the year. So that left $6,100 unspent at the end of the fiscal year. For our recreational area rates, they started the year with a surplus of $1.1 million. They brought in a further $1.1 million in revenue and expended $1.2 million of that. So we do finish the year with a $1 million surplus as of March 31st. In terms of our reserves, we are projecting, or we did close the year with a balance of $324 million. We do expect that number to grow slightly over the next couple of years, but with the number of future commitments we have, we are projecting to have only an uncommitted balance in 28-29 of $59 million. So that's money that would be available to be spent out of the reserves. In terms of hospitality expenses for the 3-month period that ended on March 31st, we spent about $800 on hospitality expenses, resulting in a year-to-date total of $12,500, and that chart is included in the package as well for review. And finally, we'll move on to the expenses for reportable individuals. So for the quarter, we did have a total of $27,000 in expenses claimed. That leaves us with a year-to-date total of $108,000, and that's the full table there as shown. So that would be the end of our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate that presentation. So any members of council have a question for Dave? Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this may be unfair because my question is more department specific, but you may or may not know the answer. One of the big factors in expenses being higher at the departmental level, business unit level, was overtime, and particularly was several business units, but I was thinking specifically of HRP and HRFE, who they had big overtime increases. You don't know what the driver of those increases are, do you? Is it just more work, volume of calls? Is it fewer staff showing up for shifts, more people on leave?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I think there's actually a few different factors at play there. So we have looked into some of the causes of what's driving some of that overtime. In certain cases, it's related to call-outs that they need to make because there's people that are sick on their shifts, and they need to bring in someone on overtime to fill those shifts, especially in areas where they can't afford to have someone not in that seat. In other areas, it may be related to certain training work that they're doing. There might be overtime. There might be court costs that are on overtime on the police side of things. So there's a lot of different factors that are at play there. But I think a big factor of it is it's having to have those people in place to fill those shifts when someone calls in sick or there's just a vacant seat at that time.
Okay, I'll follow up more with the business unit at a later time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cleary. Our CFO has a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry Blackwood, CFO. So yeah, just to add on to Dave's comments, I would say, when looking at the financials for police, it definitely related to level of vacancy with police officers that are off. For sure, that's the biggest driver there to replace that complement. And same thing for fire, but I think one of the big drivers there that we're trying to dig into is on the training program, right? So from what we understand is when they take a training class, they got to take 15 firefighters out of service to go with the training class, and that shift is then that's backfilled with overtime, which is straight overtime. So that's a real big cost driver there. But we continue to try to noodle through that to understand the drivers of those two better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Any other questions from members of the committee for Dave? No? Dave, you're off the hook for a little bit of time, you and Danielle, but now we'll invite Paul James, who is the lead audit engagement partner from KPMG, who will provide a presentation and available to answer any questions as well before we move on to the motion. Welcome, Mr. James.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, for having us here today to walk you through our audit findings report on the audit of HRM for March 31st, 2025. So myself, Paul James, I'm the lead engagement partner. As mentioned, our audit senior manager here with me today is Rebecca Foster, and our engagement quality control reviewer is Katie Denbach. Katie would play the role of quality control partner. What that means is a second partner review of our audit file, the procedures we carry out, and the financial statements also that we're opining on. From a highlights perspective of our audit, we have completed the we have completed the audit of the consolidated financial statements with the exception of certain remaining outstanding procedures, which it will highlight on the next slide. I will note that those are all kind of standard for this point in time of the audit as outstanding. There were no significant changes since we presented our audit plan to the committee. Our significant risks remain the same, as well as our risk assessment, and there were no matters with regards to going concern. We did not have any significant unusual transactions, no changes in accounting policies or practices within the municipality during the year, and no other financial reporting matters to discuss. We did not identify any misstatements that remain uncorrected at this point in time. There are 2 items identified on the management representation letter as well as on future slides with regards to corrected misstatements, one of which Mr. Harley discussed, and we'll go through the other. We did not identify any control deficiencies through our testing in internal controls over financial reporting. As I mentioned, as of the date we issued this report, as well as today, we had 4 outstanding matters, all of which are standard practice at this point in time and would be completed once we understand the approval has been obtained on the financial statements from council. We'll carry out the other 3 items and be able to issue our audit report on the financial statements. If any items become to our attention between now and that date, we would make sure that we communicate it to the committee. As presented in our plan, we had one significant risk, which was the management override of controls, and I would have communicated at that point in time during our planning report that this is a risk in all, significant risk, in all financial statement audits. It's part of the auditing standards. Our response was the test of journal entries and other adjustments, performing a retrospective review of significant estimates within the financial statements, as well as evaluating any reasoning and business rationale for any significant or unusual transactions. We did carry out our procedures to that note, and no exceptions were noted, and we did not identify any instances of management override of controls. As I mentioned in the summary, there were 2 corrected misstatements during our audit time. There was one item to the tune of $4.1 million with regards to an accrual, an accounts payable, as well as related to a capital asset project that was unrecorded, came up through our testing, and we discussed with management, and it was subsequently adjusted and is reflected in the 2025 statements. The other item was the restatement of prior periods of 2024, March 2024 numbers for accumulated surplus, as well as the investment in Halifax Waterline, which, as was discussed, came up through the Halifax Water audit. It was brought to our attention by their auditors, Grant Thornton. We have, I will note, there is an added paragraph as well as no disclosure in the financial statements that does adequately describe that item and is in line with the auditing and accounting standards. As I noted, there were no control deficiencies through our testing, and nothing to bring forward to the committee on that. We are required to ensure that we remain independent through the period under audit, being the fiscal year of HRM, and this slide is just meant to state that and make sure that everybody understands that we are independent. If there were any items that impaired our independence, we would bring those forward, but nothing to report. Some of the appendices are in your reporting package too, which will highlight. One just being the draft auditor's report. As I mentioned, on the second page of the auditor's report, there would be what we call an emphasis of matter paragraph, which does discuss the restatement and highlights the fact that the restatement for 2024 is described in note 2 to the financial statements. And our management representation letter, which would have the attachments, which with the 2 corrected misstatements that I highlighted, would be a part of the appendices to that management representation letter. That's the end of our report, and I'm happy to take any questions from the committee if there are any.
Thank you very much, Mr. James. Any questions from any members of the committee? Seeing no questions, would the a committee member like to go in camera? Councillor Clary, so moved. Seconder, Councillor Gills. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. So members of the gallery, we'll just go in camera for a few minutes to exercise our due diligence. Thank you very much, members of in the gallery and staff, for your patience. We will now move to the motion for item number 5, the year-end financial statements and fourth quarter financial report. Is there a member of the committee that would like to put the motion on the floor? Thank you, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the Audit Committee recommend that Halifax Regional Council the consolidated financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2025. 2, the statement of general rate surplus of the Halifax Regional Municipality for the year ended March 31st, 2025. 3, transfers to reserves of the following amounts to reduce the general rate surplus to 0. Q416 operating stabilization reserve 3.5 million. 4, financial statements for the Halifax Regional Municipality miscellaneous trust funds for the year ended March 31st, 2025. And 5, the appointment of KPMG as the external auditor for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2026. 6, the fourth quarter report for 24-25 on district capital, district activity, recreational area rates, hospitality expenses, and expenses for reportable individuals.
Any comments on the motion?
Nothing further.
What is the will of the committee? Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. Our motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Dave Harley and to Mr. James. The date of our next meeting is to be determined, and we can now adjourn the audit committee. Motion to adjourn, Councillor Gillis. Adjourn at 10:57. Thank you very much. We move right into our Audit and Finance Standing Committee for September 17th, 2025. Thank you. Our call to order and the land acknowledgement that the Halifax Region Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and the traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. We'll ask now for approval of the minutes of August 20th. Councillor Gillis, seconded by Councillor Cleary. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Approval of the order of business and the approval of additions or deletions. Madam Clerk, do we have any additions or deletions?
No additions or deletions have been received by the clerk's office.
Thank you. So motion, Councillor Cleary, seconded, Councillor Gillis. You guys are the team today. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Business arising out of the minutes, there are none. We will call for conflict of interest. Hearing none. Motions of reconsideration, there are none. Motions of rescission, there are none. Consideration of deferred business, none. Notice of tabled matters, none. Correspondence, Madam Clerk, do we have any correspondence for this meeting or since it started?
No correspondence has been received by the clerk's office.
Thank you. Any petitions?
No petitions have been received by the clerk's office.
Great, and now we move on to presentations. And so we have with us Alice Evans, an update on the development project on Clyde Street for Prescott Group. So with Alice is David DePercio. Thank you, with Prescott Group. So you have 10 minutes to present. We're pleased to have this presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay, while Alice is setting things up, I will just cue things up for the committee. So my name is Dave DePercio. I'm a board member for the Prescott Group, and Alice Evans is the CEO. And just for a little high-level context, Prescott Group is a nonprofit organization and registered charity. They've been around for decades, over 50 years in fact, and they support residents in the Halifax Regional Municipality with intellectual disabilities. So up until the month of July, we are actually based in the north end of Halifax on Prescott Street, hence the name. We recently moved to Clyde and Birmingham Street in the Margarita building. And so that place is called Progress Place. So the organization is Prescott Group Society. The physical space is Progress Place, which Alice is going to speak to. And just as a bit of other information, a couple of years ago, we actually merged with Club Inclusion, which operates out of St. James United Church near the Armdale Rotary. So we're actually running two fairly large organizations between the two, but it's all now one organization. You might have heard of Prescott Group, you might have heard of Club Inclusion, but we're now all one. So Alice is going to take you through a brief presentation just to walk you through what we do and why we're here.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. So we're super excited to be able to tell you about Progress Place. We've moved from North End Halifax, as Dave said, to Clyde Street, which is really bringing people with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities into the heart of Halifax downtown core. And we're super excited about the possibilities that this is going to afford us and the whole community, building belonging and connection for people with very diverse needs and different backgrounds. Our mission is to support people with disabilities to experience choice and opportunity, and we really focus on dignity, employment, skills development, and building genuine connection between people. Some of our programs you'll see here, we have pottery classes, we have a huge bakery now in our new space, and a gluten-free cafe which is open to the public and employs people with intellectual disabilities. We have a mailing business, lots of different programs, and we're really excited about this new state-of-the-art facility that is trauma-informed through its design, has many large program rooms that can be used by many people. It has chill-out spaces, break spaces, and as I said, the cafe and the public spaces. And we're hoping that we will have our Rick Hansen Gold certification very soon. We're working towards that. And we bring barrier-free washrooms to downtown Halifax, which means Halifax is much more accessible for people who have those personal change needs and also have those sensory needs. So if you need a sensory break, this is a space where you can use that. As you can see, we don't have much furniture in these pictures, if we're showing you, but we do have an amazing space, and we're really keen to work with the whole community to build it. A little bit about what we do. Generally, we offer employment, build connection, and we have about 100 people in the space every day, but we also have other groups like Progress Club are having lunch there today, and that's a catering job for our participants. They also do hosting and welcoming people, and our participants also develop different programs that they can deliver too. So we have personal development programs. They may do stress management workshops for people, things like that. They have their own goals that they work on, and we offer support for the whole family and the community. So families really depend on us, and our work connects people and enables those family members to work. We have about 42 partnerships with different community groups and businesses at the moment. So we work with the YWCA, the Youth Project. Some recent programs that we've developed are a partnership with Two Crows Brewing, where our participants developed a lager and a sparkling water, and they are sold as part of a brewing belonging campaign. Two Crows also employ our participants to work on those, on the canning lines. And we work with East Coast Lifestyle to create bags and different garments that are sold. You have to look out for our dog bandanas, which are coming soon. We have volunteer programs, so we volunteered with the Great Outdoor Comedy Festival, and we're really looking at ways that we can work with our partners to innovate. So projects that we're developing at the moment are with the Schulich School of Law at Dalhousie University, looking at ways that we can build volunteer programs for their law students that also help build justice and awareness for people with disabilities. programs with a medical school where we look at ways that people with intellectual disabilities that can increase their access to health and also educate medical students. And some of our participants recently researched crime prevention and developed a program there, which they've delivered to group homes, talking about abuse prevention and how to stay safe in the community. Our programs cover every stage of life from youth to seniors, and what we would hope to do in this space is also offer some programs for parents and tots. So those younger kids and those younger families who can sometimes feel very anxious about entering the world of disability, finding some ways to create connections for those people. One program that we developed recently with Citadel High School is a Saturday job program where people get their first Saturday job in our bakery and our thrift store, and they get their first wage, and it's a really empowering experience for them with a 10-week work program. There's a picture there of my son who did it. So we have about 450 individuals take part in our daytime programs, our drop-in clubs and camps throughout the year, and their families are all supported through us as well. And they're not all at Clyde Street at the moment, but that is sort of gives you a snapshot of the community in Halifax who will be making use of this space. We have been working very hard to diversify our funding streams so that we're not just reliant on provincial funding, and that we are able to be sustainable into the future and really create as many different outcomes for our families and individuals as possible. Do you want to say anything about this slide?
I would just say, as Al said, we do get quite a bit of funding from the provincial government through the Disability Support Program. It covers a lot of the direct support program staff, if you will, and a certain amount of administration and overhead, but not all of it. So we have to rely on all these other streams of revenue to maintain the sustainability of the organization. So we, especially if we want to do some more innovative programming and we don't have the funds to do so, we will seek grants from other organizations so that we can actually offer those programs. And we have some social enterprises, so we do have some cash coming in from those entities, from those businesses we can speak to more. And we have some grassroots fundraising that's been going on for several years. And we just started to embark on a broader campaign called Building Belonging, which we're really just getting off the ground.
So we're really hopeful that City of Halifax will partner with us and support Progress Place and support Prescott Group as we support the community of vulnerable individuals in Halifax. We're really hoping that we can build this space so it's accessible to lots of different community groups, and we can lease it to different people during the week and evenings. We're using the space till 3 p.m, which leaves a lot of time when other people can use it. And as I say, it's fully accessible and trauma informed. So for us to be able to maybe act as an offshoot when the library rooms are full, people could lease the space from us. And with that, we would be able to create employment for people with intellectual disabilities in hosting, catering, and general front of house work, which would be great. We also would like to buy some furniture for our multisensory rooms and buy some window treatments for the building. It's got beautiful windows, but they're a little hot. And we would love to have some outdoor furniture on Clyde Street so we can really make the most of that lovely space. We are also looking for support with our sustainability, really. So if it was possible for us to have tax relief ongoing as a non-profit in Halifax, we would be extremely grateful for that. And Madam Chair, that's our presentation. We'd love to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alice, and thank you, David. So, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming and presenting, and thanks for hosting a few of us over at the new space recently. an amazing space and such an amazing organization, and amazing clients and individuals who participate in your programs. So I appreciate that. And, you know, moving to that location in the center of our city, I think is really important for us, because it centers those, it literally centers those individuals in our city, and figuratively centers them, and it adds more vibrancy. It creates much more exposure, and I would imagine it creates a lot more, you know, esteem in the individuals who are participating and going to Prescott. And as a nonprofit in a rental space, you do not qualify for our tax rebate program because you don't own your space and you're not paying the taxes directly. So this is one of those recent issues we've been discussing and we'll continue to discuss in the near future. So I would be happy, and I've made it, I've sent it to our clerk and told our committee members that I would be happy to move motion. I don't see anyone else on the board just yet for questions, so maybe I'll take this opportunity to put the motion on the floor. And Dorothy, if you could put it up on the screen for us. I move that the Audit and Finance Standing Committee direct the CAO to provide a staff report to consider funding options for Prescott Group as either a one-time or annual funding, and, you know, something that would be equivalent to, we'll need to work with you guys to get some more details, but something that could be equivalent to whatever a property tax rebate would be if you did own the space. And we'll see what comes back in the staff report on that. So that's the motion that I would put on the floor. Appreciate that. Both Councillor St. Amand and Ms. and
We'll give that
Councillor
one to
Gillis,
Councillor St. Amand. How's that?
joint seconders there. And so, I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments, but I think given what you're doing in the community and the overlap with so many of the things that we're trying to do, and the values that we have as a municipality and the mission that we have as a municipality, I think this fits and is something that we should be supporting. So again, thank you very much for presenting today.
I don't see any other questions from councillors. If I could just ask one, and just Ellis, has Progress Place, previously Prescott Group, applied through the community grants program for anything?
We often are supported through the community grants program for different programs and accessibility at club inclusion, and we also got some help with our bathrooms and accessibility features in this build. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion is on the floor. I see no other names. The wish of council or of the committee? Question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hands. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you both very much. Nice to see you again, Alice. Of course, your program is near and dear to my heart, considering my background. So I can't wait to come visit. So we move now on to the public participation part of our agenda. So as of 4:30, there were no registered speakers for the meeting, but we will ask 3 times from the gallery if there is anyone from the public that wishes to speak. For the second time, is there any members of the gallery that would like to speak? And for the third and final time, is there anyone in the gallery that would like to speak? So now we'll move on to information items brought forward. There are none. And we move on to reports for their staff. So 13.1.1, 2025-26 Affordable Housing Grant Program Funding, Administrative Order 2025-003 ADM, respecting grants for affordable housing. There is currently no presentation that is associated with this report, but we do have some staff present to answer a question. Alex Wilson, planner, Dave Patterson, principal planner, and Aaron Murnahan, manager of the Housing Accelerator Fund. So, would a member of council like to put the motion on the floor? I keep saying member of council, member of committee. Councillor Gillis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to put the motion on the floor. The motion is that the Audit and Finance Standing Committee recommend that Halifax Regional Council direct the Chief Administration Officer to allocate $1.5 million from the Density Bonus Reserve Q640 to fund projects in the Regional Centre under the Affordable Housing Grant Program.
Councillor St. Amand?
I just wanted a little bit of a clarification. So the actual and anticipated column rises rather dramatically with the 2026 anticipated. And I know that there was language in the report that spoke to the change having to do with, I'm trying to remember exactly what the language was. I'm scanning, looking, I should have made some notes within the document itself. Just trying to understand why it is such a stark difference going from 2025 into 2026.
And we have someone coming forward.
Thank you for the question through the chair. Dave Patterson, principal planner with the Housing Accelerator Fund program. This table actually is a result of quite a bit of work, which is we're looking at table 2 here on page 4.
Right.
And this relates also to the first appendix, the first attachment in the report. The dip, as you'll see, sort of if you go from 2020 through to 2023, give or take, the average has been about 1.95 million into the bonus zoning reserve. In March of 2024, we changed the collection of bonus zoning from the building permit to the occupancy stage. So what we've been doing for the last 18 months or so is calculating that amount when someone comes in for building permit, but not actually receiving that amount until they are in for occupancy. And in recent years, that difference has been on average 587 days from permit to occupancy. So we essentially have had a bit of a gap in the last year and a half of not collecting very much, but that's all sort of calculated and anticipated to come in the next year or so, year or two.
So it's that delay created by the changeover from getting the funds at start of a project versus at the end of a project.
That's right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that was, for background, that was feedback we got from developers where they had trouble basically finding the funding or having the financing for funding until they get closer to the end of the project.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. Thank you, Dave. Councillor Hensby.
I'm just curious in regards to the upcoming federal budget. Do you anticipate any changes to the federal contributions that we may be seeing or not seeing? As I hear they're talking about this bill, Canada Homes and stuff, this new bureaucracy they're building, and I believe during the campaign trail, the Prime Minister was saying about cutting permit fees in half, whatever the case may be. So I'm just kind of curious if we anticipate any contributions or maybe complications from the federal budget that's due on November the 4th, I believe.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Hensby, Aaron Murnahan, Manager, Housing Accelerator Program. Unfortunately, to date, Councillor, we haven't received any information that we can go on with regard to additional federal supports directly to municipalities to support affordable housing. We do still have 2 incoming contributions of close to $20 million apiece. The next one will be received in December of this year and then December of 2026 through the HAF program. But to date, we haven't received any information of additional funding sources through the federal government.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hensby. Councillor St. Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the risk consideration section, you speak to the staffing resources required to manage the program, and I'm curious because while it refers to in general terms what the risk is, that we're a little light on staffing resources to manage the inflow of projects that would be coming into this program. It doesn't state specifically what the expected impact of that staffing shortage would be. Is it anticipated to be a new hire that will wind up coming forward in our upcoming budget? And do we yet know what that would wind up meaning for the budget for the department?
Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor, we're still working internally to figure out our staffing needs for this coming fiscal year. We do know that our entire program was essentially administered by a single staff person up until the start of the HAF program in 2023. But certainly there's been exponential growth in that program and demand on that program since that time due to the housing crisis. And we've been using funds through the HAF, obviously, to bolster our staff resources on an interim basis during that time. So we will be coming forward to council with some recommendations in advance of the next budget.
Okay, so stay tuned. There'll be a line item in there somewhere.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor St. Amand. Seeing no other names on the list, what is your wish? Call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand. Opposed, nay. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Aaron. The next item on our agenda is 13.1.2, the Orenda Canoe Club request for HRM funding. Councillor Hensby.
I'll put the motion on the floor that the Audit and Finance Committee recommend to Regional Council, 1, decline the funding request from the Orenda Canoe Club, and 2, refer the Orenda Canoe Club to the HRM Community Grants Program for consideration fiscal 2026-27 for a capital grant valued up to $25,000. Well, Madam Chair, I will not be supporting this motion at all. If you saw the report, I scratched my head. Just 2 years ago, we funded the Bannock Canoe Club for $267,000, $250,000 for renovations to their facility, as well as another $16,700 for waiver of permit fees that were required. So I don't see any difference between that canoe club and this canoe club. I'm hoping that committee would vote down this recommendation and go with the request and test council on the initial request of $250,000. They do have an opportunity to unlock some federal funding, but it's held back because of it has to be triggered with other joint funding and stuff. I have been given the canoe club $10,000 of my capital amount every year to help them with various things to do with their club, from safety boats to canoe replacements to renovations and winterizations, and I've had Councillor Purdy also assist a little bit as well, and they have applied for community grants in the past. But the problem here, though, is that they fell into the so-called pandemic issue in regards to trying to do construction work during the pandemic. They found that the cost of materials just went through the roof on them, as well as some of the trade laborers and stuff. They're trying to do as much of the labor themselves, but some of this stuff has to require certain electricians, and certain mechanical work has to be certified, requires those type of trades to do that work. But I'm hoping that this committee would see the request of a Orenda Canoe Club in a better light and treat it equally like the other canoe clubs we've had helped in the past. So I ask for your support to turn down this request, turn down this recommendation, and go with an alternative, please. That's in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Hensby. Jerry Blackwood, our CFO, has a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify, and Councillor Hensby is right about the Bannock funding. That was a little bit of a different situation in the fact it wasn't for direct building costs. It was to address groundwater drainage and runoff that was coming from a portion of land, I believe, that HRM owned in our right of way. So I think the grant was given to Bannock to address that issue on our behalf. Thank you.
If I might ask a question, I don't see any other names. A member of our staff, we have Trish Higby here, I think it says. Great. And Andy Conrad, Manager of Community Partnerships. I'm just wondering if they could come and speak to the alternative that Councillor Hensby is considering for us, how that alternative came out. Just going to open it up.
Hello, Andy Conrad, Manager of Community Partnerships. Through you, Madam Chair, to the councillor. If we're talking about the alternative to come back with a different funding amount, is that the question? Yes. Then there's nothing in the budget currently for that, so we would need to come back with a report to identify a funding source. And currently, Arenda has some past due reporting to the community grant programs that makes them ineligible to receive funding in that program right now. So we would need to get that in a line as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that answer. So, Councillor Hensby, am I correct in understanding that you're saying that you wish not to support this and you're willing to bring forward another motion?
To refer it back to in regards to the request, I sent an email, a copy of an email that's received yesterday from the Canoe Club. They're asking, they saw the recommendation and they're downsizing their request to $50,000 because that would help unlock some of the federal funding they have been approved for, but they need to get access to it through joint funding. And I've leveraged everything I had available to my resources to assist with that.
Thank you. I wasn't aware of that email, hadn't read it yet. So it was a busy day yesterday. So members of council, or committee rather, you wish to call for the question? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion is defeated. The motion carries. Sorry, had that backwards. So the motion does carry. So, Councillor Henby, I would anticipate that you'll probably be working with the club to come back with something else at a later date.
Also with regional council.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Moving on then. We're at 13.1.3, which is the first quarter 2025-26 financial report. We have Tiffany Smith, who is the Manager, Service Delivery, and Dave Harley, our Director of Financial Management and Operations, to provide a presentation and to answer any of our questions.
Okay, even though it's red. Okay. All right. So yeah, Tiffany Smith, going to take you through the first quarter report this morning. So starting out with our projected position coming into the end of the first quarter, we're looking at a surplus of just under 200,000. So I'm going to run through the most material items that make up that variance, but of course full details by business unit are in your second attachment to the report. So we are seeing a decrease in compensation and benefits of 1.2 million, and that's across the organization. We've released a contingency related to the change in HST, which is $1 million. And just to note, we did book that in fiscal services, but the actual savings would be recognized across the organization as the net or the non-refundable portion of the tax that's being paid is slightly lower. We've seen an increase in interest revenue and tax for just under $1 million, and that's primarily related to an increase in assessed values, resulting in greater interest being generated. So offsetting those amounts is a decrease in secondment and extra duty recoveries in police for 1.3 million. So we've had some unexpected discontinuations of secondments and lower demand for extra duty, but certainly impacting both of those would be ongoing staffing challenges within HRP. Increase in various external contracts across the organization is 1.2 million. Some of the more material ones would be snow contracts in public works, as well as various contracts in parks and recreation. Increase in RBC and Greenfoot Center operations above what was budgeted is $500,000, and then increase in courier and postage costs due to higher mail volumes, and then an increase in Canada Post rates above what was budgeted is $300,000. So next we'll take a look at risks and opportunities. So these are items we're monitoring that may impact our numbers going forward. So the first one is one that we highlight every quarter, impacts of severe weather-related events. Certainly we've had very dry conditions over the last few months, which has led to increased risk of fire, as well as drought. And then we're currently in hurricane season, and we'll continue to monitor as we go into the winter storm season as well. Commodity cost fluctuations can be an opportunity or a risk. At this point, we are seeing some decrease in diesel below what is currently budgeted, but we'll continue to monitor for other fluctuations. Uncertainty in global trade. At this point, we're not seeing any overly material impacts on our budget at this point, but certainly continue to monitor for impacts in both our operating and capital budgets. Lack of uncommitted reserve balances. So right now, having low uncommitted reserve balances impacts our flexibility to act upon opportunities as they come up, as well as funding risks as they occur. And then finally, unplanned project requests. So these are items that are coming outside of the regular budget cycle. They can be disruptive to planned priorities, certainly can create budget overruns, both in year and then ongoing if they're ongoing program requests, and can lead to misaligned resources as well. So next we'll move on to the councillors' funds. District Capital Fund, total budget of $2.7 million as of the end of the first quarter. 1.2 million has been spent or committed, and that leaves 1.5 million available. District activity funds, $72,000 budget, 19.2 thousand has been spent or committed at the end of June, and that leaves 52.8 thousand available to be spent. Next is the recreation area rates. So there's 22 of these accounts. Carry forward for these accounts at the beginning of the year was $1 million. Revenues earned to the end of June was just under 300,000, and expenses to the same time period were just under 400,000. Carry forward as of June 30th is 932,000. So next is the reserve summary. Opening balance is 453 million, and then our projected closing balance at the end of this fiscal year is 372 million. And then if we look forward 4 years to fiscal 28-29, our projected uncommitted balance is down to 64 million. Next is the age accounts receivable. So the total gross accounts receivable as of June 30th was 77 million. Next, capital projection summary. So net budget available before expenditures at June 30 would have been 690 million. Expenditures to the end of the same time period is 60 million. We're currently projecting additional expenditures to the end of the fiscal year of 422 million. And then work projected to progress into next fiscal is just under 200 million. Expenses for reportable individuals, 3-month period ended June 30th. There were $58,156 in expenditures, and the majority of that would have been out-of-town travel, but full details are available in attachment 9 to the report. And then finally, council approvals for the first quarter coming outside of the budget would have total new estimated operating costs of 175,000, and then total new reserve withdrawals of 175.5 thousand. And that's the end of the presentation this morning. And yeah, both myself and Dave Harley here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. Any members of the committee have any questions? No? I have one, and that is just last week at the regional council meeting. Oh, can I? Is that an in-camera? So I can't ask.
You can't ask.
Can I just ask about additional leases that may have been signed since this report and what impact it would have on the next quarterly reporting? That's outside the budget, as we know.
To you, Madam Chair. So I think it depends on the timing of when that lease would start as to when it would actually start to impact our reporting. So if that release doesn't start until the next fiscal year, it might not show up at all within this year's reporting until we actually get to that point. Once it does show up, what we would see is, especially if it's an unbudgeted amount, we'd be have those of these costs that would be driving us into a deficit position within that business unit.
Thank you very much. Councillor St. Amand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have one comment here, and that's just one of the things that was particularly useful as we went through the budget exercise, in my case for the first time this past year, was when we looked at some of these tables that identified overs and unders. Very often we were given a percentage that indicated the proportion change relative to the prior year, for example. And that's notably absent from this particular report. And so I was just curious if you could speak to whether or not some of the deficits that were seen were in line with percentage change that you would commonly see, just to better understand whether or not, you know, to cherry pick an example, the almost $500,000 increase in operating costs for RBC and Greenfoot, for example. I didn't see within here where the line item is that suggests what the original budget was. So is this a 5% increase or a 30% increase? Like what kind of impact do these rolling changes have through different departments where we see deficits that are presumably a percentage relative to whatever the prior year was, what's been budgeted? How quickly can we identify whether or not these are still within the realm of these are anticipated changes in cost, even if they weren't budgeted, just to get a sense of whether or not they are reasonable and forecastable as we go into the next budget season?
Through you, Madam Chair. So when it comes to a surplus or deficit that we're reporting right now, that's basically in relation to what we have in the budget. So what we've actually done as we're building our budgets is we should be looking at those expected changes. Say if we're seeing like a 5% increase on that, we should be factoring that into our budget look as we're going forward. So anytime that we're seeing a surplus or deficit at this point in time, it would mean that it's been a level of change or growth that we didn't anticipate, and that's where we have a miss. So I think in terms of your comment that it's helpful to see that percentage, we can kind of take that away and see if we can kind of look at some of our reporting and maybe incorporating that in some way. And it may be a little bit difficult where some of those line items may be accumulated in with other items, so it may not be a straight percentage, but we'll take that away and see if we can find some way to improve on that piece to bring some clarity to that. But in terms of what we're talking about, like I said, the surplus or deficit as we're looking at it now, I think when it's important to realize that that change, we've anticipated a change as we've built the budget. So whatever we're seeing now as a surplus or deficit means that it's unanticipated
Right.
and ones that we will need to account for in terms of this current year, whether or not it's reasonable or not. We still have to find some way to fund that.
Yeah. I just want to be mindful of the fact that there are unexpected expenses that come across in a variety of business units, and so those, as our fiduciary duty here, to understand where these numbers are coming from, what the drivers are, how we can control those costs. Those are all things that we're actively thinking about, and we hear from residents on a regular basis on that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor St. Amand. Councillor St. Amand, would you like to put the motion on the floor?
I move that the Audit and Finance Standing Committee forward the first quarter 2025-26 financial report to Regional Council for their information.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Gillis. Any comment on the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye, raising your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Tiffany and Dave. We'll move on now to motions. There are none. In camera, we have none. Added items, we have none. Notices of motion. Members of the committee, do you have any notices of motion? Hearing none, the date of our next meeting is October 15th, 2025, and we would ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor St. Amand, we are adjourned at 11:39. Thank you all so very much. Have a great day.